shall pay, Black Prince. I curse you with my name. You shall be Blackula.
Blackula, the Black Avenger, rising from his tomb to fill the night with horror. Blackula, Dracula's soul brother, deadlier even than he.
You know, he is a strange dude.
You're the nut that ran in front of my cab. You're the only imbecile on this street. Boy.
Blackula.
Look at man, you found, he's got to be around here somewhere. Now listen, you take your hands off of me. I don't know you.
He thirsts for your blood. He hungers for your soul. Warm young bodies will feed his hunger. Hot, fresh blood will quench his awful thirst.
Make it a Bloody Mary. Are you, into the occult?
No!
How about the, heavy stuff?
What do you think of vampires?
Vampires? I think they're possibly the most fascinating of all.
More horrifying than Dracula. The Black Avenger, Blackula.
Vampires. This episode of Destructomundo.
Blah. It's on. There's no sound. Play with the rabbit ears.
Reports, incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria. What do they think we're imagining all this?
Destructomundo. Witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of trance were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases the killers are eating flesh of the people they murdered. Repeating this, the latest television just received months ago from Maryland. Civil defense authorities have told you that murder victims show evidence of having been partially devoured by their murderers.
One takes blood. So we got a different crew together tonight. We couldn't have everybody together. It's a Sunday that we're recording on, which is...
you can't talk about vampires during the week.
Yeah, right. Doesn't work out. No, everybody couldn't be together tonight, and I want to make a round of introductions of who's here. To my left, I have Jason. Jason's here tonight with us. Jason's a very good friend of mine from years and years past. Say hey.
Hi.
Mike's back for another round.
Hello.
And, of course, Jeremiah.
Hey.
And our special guest, Mark, who we really have to give it up to Mark because this is his idea. Mark, probably every bit of 6 months ago, asked me if we were ever going to do an episode on vampires. And I told him, well, yeah, I would imagine we would. And I asked him if he wanted to be a part of this. And, of course, he said yeah. And I promised him that I wouldn't do the show without him. So Mark is the bartender at our favorite bar, and he has to work Fridays and Saturday nights. So that's the nights we record generally. So here we are. We're recording with him tonight on a Sunday.
Good evening.
And Derek can't be with us, and Adam and Ted are both
with child.
Yeah, with child. So they're gonna have a hard time doing a Sunday show too. So yeah, it's Mark calls it the B team. It's the Destructomundo B team.
We're all wearing Fonzie jackets with water skis.
Yeah.
We're the RNA to Destructomundo's flying squad.
That's right. And
we're John Aston as the Riddler on the Batman TV show.
Ooh.
Good reference.
Wow. Can you pull one out?
Couldn't even use like Eartha Kitt or Julie Newmar on that one.
Yeah,
You had to like go straight to John Astin.
Yeah, John Astin. You got to go.
Yeah.
Was he the Riddler because like at that point Frank Gorshin was
making a movie?
What movie was
when he doing the black and white guy on Star Trek?
I don't remember what movie he was making then, but he came back and did the Riddler again after John Astin. It just I don't know why they just didn't make John Astin like
Frank Gorshin just died recently. Didn't we talk about the?
Yeah, he did. It wasn't that long ago.
I think it was like last year, maybe this year.
It's a tragic loss to BTV.
Indeed. So yeah, vampires. We've been waiting around to do this episode, and right now is kind of an odd time.
Yeah, so close to Halloween. Who would have thunk?
That's right. This is the Halloween episode, and here we have the graphic novel 30 Days a Night just came out and has been made into a movie. And I was surprised by how quickly it came out as a graphic novel and then like immediately went to film. The graphic novel just appeared like last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Ever since Sin City, that stuff's been hot though.
And there it goes. I mean, comic properties have really gone fast.
Spider-Man, Batman, and Sin City. It's
right. And then
Horse Whisperer.
Which one?
The Horse Whisperer.
The Horse Whisperer.
What were his powers? Did he have wear some long johns that had a big HW on it?
Oh my god, that's so bad. But yeah. I was
trying to come up with a hung like a joke, but I just couldn't find it.
We were all going to try to go see this movie before we did the show, but nobody's seen it. But
I saw it.
Has anybody? Jeremiah's seen it. Okay, that's good.
I was supposed to go see it tonight, and
then I talked you into doing the show
to talk about it instead.
I needed to I sent out the B team signal.
Yeah, 30 Days of Night has like fast vampires, like along the lines of like 28 Days Later.
Right.
The Dawn of the Dead remake.
Well, they're starting to use
the
a lot more.
Vampires are a lot faster, a lot meaner,
and a lot more Euro-faggy.
Right. I
don't think they were very.
Oh man!
They were Euro, obviously, because they were all like Slovakian.
They look kind of. they look like queers that sit in the corner of a discotheque, except for like the two mean bald ones.
Man, there is nothing more like Euro than a Baltic discotheque. It's like you got the crazy like thumping beats that you never hear in any club, because who the hell is going to go in a club like that?
Yeah.
And then everybody's dancing kind of pogo style, up and down, and it's full of people. And then somewhere in the back is like a table, with like a bunch of thugs that are supposed to be like the guys that run the club, essentially. I mean, have you ever been to a club like that?
Discotheques and clubs are ubiquitous, though, throughout the rest of the world. You don't get them in America, really, but, I mean, they're all through Asia, and they're all exactly like that. I mean, they're all just like that, with, like, the thugs in the back, and they're really small, actually, because the dance floor dominates the entire room.
Right.
And you get that Euro beat. And the weird thing is, like, there's very, very little tells as to where you are. Like, if you're in one that's in Belgium and you're in one that's in, like, Romania, or you're in one that's in Greece, they all look the same on the inside. Except if you're in one that's, like, in, like, Israel, like, all the Israeli youth are carrying M16s. Because if you're conscripted into the Israeli army, you have to carry your weapon with you at all times.
Really?
Yeah.
So you got to go.
So they're like in there dancing with like a Uzi. Like,
well, at least it's an Uzi. I mean, I could dance with an Uzi on. Who's gonna make fun of you? I got an Uzi, pal.
I guess the smart ass that also has an Uzi.
That's why it always seems so odd to us here. And you hear like, a grenade was rolled into a discotheque, and you're like, why are they attacking the discotheques?
It didn't attack. It just fell out.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I dropped my grenade. Yeah, but
off topic in 32 seconds.
Right, exactly. We didn't even get to on topic, and then we just went off topic. Although I do have to mention Vin Diesel's jacket in Triple X, that crazy like shag jacket he's he's totally in love with. He's wearing it like the whole time, and he goes into that discotheque wearing that. I just had to mention that. Sorry, but yeah, vampires. They've been around. They're a pretty popular subject with film and book, and they have a long history of like lore and legend as well. So, I mean, there's a lot to work with here, and we have a lot to go over for this episode, and being that we do have a lot to go over. Where do we even start? I guess obviously it's the drinking of blood. Synonymous with most vampire lores, like that the vampires drink the blood of the living, and that they're dead or undead, much like zombies, but that
usually smarter.
Yeah, and that they actually, right, they're not like completely consumed by their lust for flesh. They're able to think, and being that they're undead and technically immortal, they have a long time to, they work against mankind in a very subtle manner. They don't want to be known. They don't want to be out in the open. They don't want anybody really knowing that they exist. Although, obviously there's legend and lore to kind of...
They're kind of like raccoons.
Raccoons?
They live among us.
Yeah, but they actually...
And you never, ever see them.
Well, I've seen a raccoon.
But not often you don't. I mean, it's pretty difficult to run into a raccoon, even if you're living in an urban area, there are probably raccoons very, very near where you are.
Yeah, okay.
And they'll suck your blood.
I hate raccoons.
If they can get a hold of you.
Actually, they'll drown your dogs.
They have thumbs, man, which is totally creepy.
If you've talked to people that, have lived out there, like raccoons will try to lure dogs to the water, and they'll drown the dog. They'll just pull the dog under.
Weird.
Whoa. No, I've never heard of that.
Now I hate raccoons even more.
They're a detestable creature.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that they wash their hands.
That's cute.
So they're not going to transmit any diseases to you while you're there drowning your dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, now that we've gone over what vampires are for the throngs of people who've never heard of vampires.
Yeah, I was about to say, do we even have to I know
I felt
doesn't
silly.
Everybody know what a
doing
vampire is.
So
There's somebody who doesn't know what a vampire
come on,
is.
yeah, right.
You gotta
vampires
touch the
drink
stones.
blood. I mean, what are you
Blood
talking about?
turns into a bat.
That's
Say what?
just crazy talk.
The Romans wrote about them as being like women that would wait for travelers, which I think means Johns.
Right.
Would fall asleep, and the women would cut them, and then they would soak up their blood with sponges, and then they squeeze the blood out into a bowl, and then they'd put the sponges in the wound so that the guy wouldn't keep bleeding. And then the guy wakes up the next day and he's like, what's that on my arm? And then he pulls the sponge out, and the last of his life bleeds away.
Whoa.
Because they felt back then you had a limited amount of blood in you, and you would you didn't replenish it. So if you lost a little bit of blood, and a lot of primitive tribes feel this way too. That's why they won't medical researchers come in. It's hey, we need to take some blood, and they're like, nope, you can't take our blood, because they think that every bit of blood you lose never gets replaced.
Right. Okay.
Your hands will get pruny.
Yeah,
that's true.
You'll get all wrinkly because you've lost a lot of blood.
Too much blood.
But yeah, there's definitely an origin of the vampire myth that comes out of an odd place that most people don't really consider to be a place of vampires, but it turns out it's pretty much India. Birthplace of the vampire myth is northern India.
That's the early stuff.
Yeah.
Kali followers.
Cauliflower?
Right. Cauliflowers.
Cauliflowers.
And the gypsies.
They moved on to being the thuggy and just strangling roadside people. But they're still protected by the government.
Really?
Yeah, the thuggy are still around.
Huh. I thought they all got shot by the dudes in Indiana Jones. Took care of them. British Army. Unlike the
Indy
British
can only
Army.
do so
What was
much.
did they get killed by the British Army in that Shirley Temple movie?
What?
I'm trying to remember the Shirley Temple movie. Which was it? The Little General or something? She's the granddaughter of the British general in India, and they fight the thuggy.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then of course she tap dances once.
Sings the good ship Lollipop.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that Shirley Temple would have been brought up in this episode? But there it was.
Yeah.
Well.
Shark jumped.
Yeah.
Well, you're the one that mentioned the thuggy, and
was Buddy Ebsen in this movie?
There.
No.
I said Indiana Jones. You said Shirley Temple.
Well, yeah. But to be perfectly honest, I think the Shirley Temple movie was a little bit better than the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
That movie's not very good.
Did Shirley Temple pull somebody's heart out and show it to him?
No,
Who's that broad?
but
Is that broad
there wasn't a
going
little
to
Asian
the
kid running around going, "Misa like Indiana Jones."
No time for love, Dr.
Steven
Jones.
Spielberg's ex-wife wasn't in it either.
Right.
Steven Spielberg loves little Asian boys.
Power to him.
Allegedly.
It's because
the
they're
very wealthy and powerful Steven Spielberg.
It's because their buttholes are sideways.
Oh. What is that? Okay.
Allegedly.
Oh man. Okay.
That one's for you, Derek.
That one's for you. Oh wow. Okay. But yeah, the gypsies managed to take that with them to Romania. Is that right? And then like Eastern Europe and it's
Slovakia and Romania.
And then that.
And they all have separate beliefs, and they get mad at each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's never happened.
Well, yeah.
Slovakians not getting along with someone.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it?
But a lot of so what's with the Romanian myth? Like, I want to say Romanian, but it really isn't just Romania, is it? It's like Hungary and Turkey and all over that, and it just so happens that Romania is like the home of like the big guy. So
yeah,
and then you just
well, they added in a lot of the. I mean, you know, everything gets co-opted and conscripted to being, you know, they would add like their demons and their ghosts and stuff, and so you end up with these creatures that can basically do anything.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole lot of turning into mist and turning into wolves and turning into vampire bats that only exist in like South America.
And a strong love vibe.
Well, they turn into bats. I think the vampire bat got added later on.
Did it really? Because I don't know. I mean, like,
it
seems like that. The fact that there is a vampire bat.
Because bats are scary. People
Right,
don't
they
like
fly
bats.
around, it's
They're
dark.
mammals. They fly around. It's dark. They scare people. Oh, it's vampire. Same with wolves. Wolves used to scare people.
Yeah, and the wolves are actually like much maligned for what they do.
There's not a single recorded incident of a wolf killing a person.
Right.
Nope, but they'll kill your sheep, and that's mad enough.
Yeah, and
that's your money, man.
Yeah.
Income.
That can cause some problems, but yeah. I mean,
if you're a little vampire,
the vampire myth is really kind of done that though. It's allowed for a lot of movement. You get like these myths that encompass like vampires turning into wolves, turning into mist, turning into bats, you know, and being able to basically go wherever they want to go as long as it's dark outside. You know, and seducing women and
myriad of powers, the hypnotic gaze, the control over rats, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right. It's just like anything that's bad attributed to vampires, or anything that's bad is attributed to vampires. Nice microphone madness going on. But yeah, it's, the whole idea of like turning into bats and stuff, I think was best done with Abbott and Costello. And Abbott Costello meet Frankenstein.
Yep. Such a wonderful, wonderful movie.
Where the bats like flying around. It's like it's the rubber bat on a string, definitely. But
that is
they're like running into each other. I love that movie because is it Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein?
Yeah, it's got Count Dracula, Frankenstein,
and
the Wolfman, and at the end, the Invisible Man.
Really? Yeah. Which
voiced by Vincent Price.
Yeah.
I had not only have I seen that movie in the theater on the big screen, I own the boxer shorts. I have House of Frankenstein boxer shorts.
Where did you see it in the theater?
At
Baxter?
Kentucky Theater.
No,
Vogue?
The Palace?
The Palace.
The Palace.
So it's the Palace.
Okay.
It was a really good copy too.
Yep. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I love that movie. That's I remember when they used to play that like.
Oh, it was my favorite.
Halloween.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's the best.
I think that's what I saw it was.
Which is so much of a better movie with all of those than Van Helsing ever was. God, what a piece of crap that was.
Terrible.
That was
even the older movies.
Even
the older movies that had all of them, like House of Dracula and House of Frankenstein.
Time in the night to go over like
how bad that
the
movie
ills of
was.
Van Helsing.
Oh my God! Frankenstein's like a giant opera singer with a steam-powered leg, and then like.
Give your mom the old steam-powered leg.
It's like, what is that? And
that
then,
movie was.
And then you have Dracula, who's like 5'6". He's like the little short guy, Dracula, you know.
And let's go ahead and get over. And he turns into like a dragon. Whenever he turns into like a vampire, he looks like this weird like lizardy dragon.
Okay, now I've seen it twice. Once in the movie theater, and I remember laughing out loud and especially at the end. But like laughing out loud at how stupid it was. But the whole plot was that now Dracula financed Frankenstein to make the monster so he could figure out a way to bring his unborn children to life using the Wolfman. I still can't figure out what the hell is going on in that. And then Kate Beckinsale, of course, wears tight clothing, which saves almost any movie from...
Except that one.
Yeah. But, yeah, it wasn't even enough to save this.
Yeah.
And
it
was right off from being Wolverine.
I don't really understand that part of it.
No, that movie was going to be bad just by the hat he wore.
Halfway.
With what?
I was only half watching it, like 30 minutes into the movie. I just made up my mind this was a crappy movie.
It was the Frankenstein when like they got him at the windmill and the place is all full of like somebody been knocking back all the laudanum and stuff. No, it was it wasn't laudanum. It was what's the other thing? The green stuff.
Absinthe?
Absinthe. All over the place inside this windmill. Like, the windmill guy had been drinking the hell out of this stuff, and it was everywhere. So, of course, like, you know, because you got to have your, like, flammable stuff to blow up the windmill, you know.
All I can say is it makes
the dudes with the torches are going after Frankenstein, and he's all up in the windmill, and then he lets out that operatic no. He's like, no!
Kind of like the Electro in The Running Man?
Electro was awesome.
He was awesome.
He didn't look just like him, man. That was great. But yeah, he goes, and of course, like all the absinthe bottles that are half full blow up, you know, in this grand explosion. Because if everybody knows, you know, that's exactly what happens to alcohol when it gets lit on fire.
Van Helsing makes Waterworld look like the Road Warrior.
Oh, man. Whew. This is the second episode we brought up Waterworld.
Well, I mean...
And there may even be a third.
Waterworld?
Somewhere.
Yeah. We did Global Warming, and that's the only global warming movie ever made.
And I think Costner made the second one. Wasn't The Postman a global warming movie?
Nah, I think they had like a plague or something.
Some kind of something.
Tank Girl?
That.
Probably caused by global
Tank Girl? I don't know.
Yeah, Tank Girl's about... Yeah, we left that Tank Girl.
Oh, is that a global warming one?
Yeah.
What's that movie where the
sky... That one had
Ice-T?
Yeah, but it had Ice-T.
It's not C-Lab, but it's where they light the atmosphere on fire.
Oh, that's what we did.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about that too.
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Yeah, but that was
Peter Lorre.
But we did not.
Peter Lorre
talk about...
absolutely refusing to follow naval uniform regs in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Like he wouldn't tuck his shirt in. He's like
he
got
wore
his belly like
Peter
hanging out
and stuff too.
Yeah, he's a wild man.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's a Tank Girl. They had Ice-T playing a kangaroo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. If I ever meet Ice-T, I'm going to go, I love your kangaroo portrayal in Tank Girl. It's absolutely great. The great Malcolm McDowell.
Yep.
Man, you know your movie's going to suck.
It's like that and Caligula. Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Anymore. I mean,
he made a good movie after he was 25.
God, it's like terrible.
How old
stuff.
was he when he did Clockwork Orange? Because that's it. Right?
That's it. That's the only.
Yeah, well, he made a good movie.
I'm not a Clockwork Orange fan.
There's a movie he made before that was really good, but it was before that. So.
Oh, don't forget Cat People. There's Cat People with Natasha Kinski getting all naked all the time.
It doesn't do as much for me as it did when it came out.
Lycanthropy, if I've ever heard of one.
But that brings me to like the classic portrayal of the vampire, which was played by her father Klaus Kinski in the remake of Nosferatu. which was done by Max Schreck in the original. Which
Yep.
Have you ever seen Shadow of the Vampire with?
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, and he plays like
Willem
Max
Dafoe.
Schreck.
He's like credited as.
That's the best movie. I love that.
It was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah, because Nosferatu really portrayed like the Dracula legend in such a way as to, and believe me, we'll go back to Dracula on this, but I wanted to talk about like the different like portrayals or the types of vampires seen in like film and talked about in legend, and that one really sticks out in my mind as my favorite is the Nosferatu style vampire where you have like.
See, I'd have taken you for a Life Force guy.
Life Force is a great movie too.
Yet again, another great naked chick walking around through the whole movie. It's like Life Force, Species, and Cat People.
Right. Can't go wrong with that.
Full frontal nudity and thousands of rounds of spent ammunition.
Yep. But yeah, the Nosferatu legend is awesome because it really has like that great deformed vampire style where it's like white skin, gaunt figure, stretched skin over a skull, basically.
I think
like giant teeth.
I think one of the things that made that movie so memorable and popular was that was at a time where monsters still had to be portrayed as monstrous.
Right.
Physically.
Right, because it is a silent. It's a silent film, so you basically did have and Max Schreck wasn't a good-looking man. Apparently.
Well, and you got to realize, like monster films back then, all it had to do to be scary was to establish that there was a monster existing.
Right.
As you go on, everything you always have to top the last thing that was done. So when you look at the old early Universal films, it's like, ooh, Frankenstein exists.
Yeah.
That's basically it. It's like they made a body out of other dead bodies, or ooh, Dracula exists. It's there. We've established that it's there. Now we're scared. As you move on, then by the time you get to the the modern era, it's like, yeah, okay, vampires, but the vampire has to do something horrific. So you have to keep upping the body count, and not only do you have to up the body count, you have to up like the gratuitous violence in the body count.
Yeah.
Which is why now you have like fast vampires with like big long like claws.
Well, we're going back. We're regressing.
I don't have really a
where we
they
start
have, like,
with
piranha mouths now.
What's the thing? We started with the incredibly monstrous looking vampire, and have moved on to like the count kind, the elegant nobleman.
Don't even mention that yet. That's not.
And then we've
right.
regressed from the elegant nobleman back to the
like
monstrous.
The monster, yeah. But then we've also
got the big problem I always had with that Nosferatu like vampire, and it looks really cool. I mean, I agree with you guys. The aesthetic is dead on there. It's the fact that his fangs are like the front two teeth, the butt, kind of like the buck tooth look.
Yeah,
it's like, wouldn't that be kind of like really like not very functional?
It would be if you were trying to gnaw a tree in half.
Well,
haven't you ever seen a vampire dam? Oh my god, that's a wonder of nature right there.
Yeah,
that would be
piled bodies in the Rhine.
Yeah, right. But but that style of vampire is really, I think, my favorite because it really is the antithesis of like the modern vampire, which is, I'm sorry, gay as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the thing is
it's overdone.
That's all Anne Rice's fault.
Yeah. So that's why I like Christopher Lee, because Christopher Lee is the perfect.
Described Dracula.
Christopher Lee was the perfect one because
as an elegant nobleman.
Yeah. Well, he was an elegant nobleman, but that didn't mean
not
at
Nosferatu.
That wasn't a gay wad.
Before we go into the Dracula myth,
here's the thing: that's why the Hammer movies were the best, because Christopher Lee was and looked exactly like a nobleman.
I agree.
When he was his mom was like an Italian countess.
Yeah,
but
in actuality,
in the movies, he acted like the meanest, nastiest son of a bitch.
Yep.
I mean, he almost acted like an animal in the movies, but he looked.
And his eyes,
yeah.
Oh my god, they got those eyes perfect. They're all like red. I don't know what they put in his eyes to make them so
sprayed Tabasco
red.
sauce.
I mean, it looks like somebody actually
that was
did
back
that.
when like directors would make actors suffer. That was the Hitchcock days,
like
man.
right
Actors
now, if you're
cattle.
sitting at your computer, Google images of Christopher Lee, and you're almost guaranteed that one of them is going to be.
And I think
to me, Christopher Lee is Count Dracula.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think Hammer Films probably did the best job.
And Nosferatu
we just
wasn't
skipped
about
Bela
Dracula
Lugosi
at all
altogether, too.
Well,
I enjoy Bela Lugosi, and I enjoy the original Dracula, but I'm just saying, to me,
all right,
he wasn't the mix. He didn't have the mix. He was just the elegant nobleman.
Christopher Lee, because you got to realize, like Bela Lugosi, like really like set that. so many things about when we think Dracula, at least, if not vampire. When you think Dracula, you talk about the archetype. You're talking about the cape. You're talking about the sash, the medallion, the widow's peak, and the entire accent too.
Well, he pushed it over into.
Oh, he's the archetype of Dracula.
Well, just that he was the one that I guess you would say popularized Dracula.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
And Christopher Lee got all of his
and he had a great
physical
snarl too,
like the physical attributes of Dracula from Bela Lugosi.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's
or at least the
costuming.
The costuming, and you can even tell when he does his voice, even though he's got that really rich baritone, and it's so he's got such an English accent, but you can tell that he still imitates Bela Lugosi.
Sure,
when
and
he
you're
speaks.
right.
Well, before we
See, I
get
don't
too
think
much
so.
into the acting,
I really don't.
prowess
I mean, it's not a
of
grotesque
the people
imitation.
who have portrayed Dracula. I think we really need to touch on who Dracula actually was, if we're going to go there, because I think that is like the major portrayal of vampires has been in the visage of Dracula.
Sure.
And I think Dracula's an important figure in vampire history because it's like it's sort of the modern touch between.
He's the only figure in vampire history.
He goes back all the way to like the Crusades, and then comes up throughout, through history to the point where you have like, well, it's not quite the Crusades, would it be? It would have been like the Turks, running on Romania, but like or the area that's Romania. I don't know if it.
He was a slick and crafty dude, man. I mean, the reason the Romanians really respect him, it's not like he won a bunch of big battles because they just didn't have the army to do it.
Right. Well, he was a prince.
But he had these 3 castles, these 3 forts, basically. Right. And he was just able to like slickly take all of his guys and sneak out in the middle of the night and go to a different fort. So they'd keep having to siege a different one, and they were just never able to get him or any of the ruling class.
Yeah, and he has a tendency to impale people with those.
Well, that's kind of.
But that was by that. Now, fair enough. That was written by his detractors.
I don't doubt that he did it, but what king during that time didn't make examples?
Right. But those great woodcuts of that, I mean, are just absolutely.
Well, supposedly he did have
icons.
one big episode where he invited all this rivaling. I don't know if it was a rivaling clan or from a rival country.
No,
he invited
got,
all their
of
nobles,
the leaders,
and he just killed them all.
Yeah, the dinner.
Because people don't think about that sort of thing when they're like, that's unheard of. You don't do that
it's
sort
like
of stuff.
you read when we ascribe our modern ethics to those time periods, we're being ridiculous.
Right.
It's like people look back at Machiavelli and think that he was this nasty, rude, amoral person, and he wasn't. He was really, he was really educated and effete and from all.
Well, he could write.
But what he was talking about is there's only one way to hold power, and this is kind of the way that you have to do it. You have to kill your enemies in those time periods. There was no negotiation.
It drives me out of my mind when somebody's like, George Washington owned slaves. Well, yeah, he was rich and he was white, and
that's what he did.
That's the way it was done back then. Yeah, catch me.
Pull your mic back out a little bit.
You're getting a little stretched there.
You're getting some popping peas.
Your big hang tooth, your snaggle tooth.
Yeah, popping peas.
Exit, stage left.
Right.
Jeremiah's one of the more hideous people you'll ever lay eyes on.
Speaking of Nosferatu.
Max Shrek and all. No, but yeah, Dracula is very iconic in that sort of... He comes from history. He's an actual person. And then you have the legend built up around him about being like this vampiric prince, and being immortal and living throughout the centuries, and then coming up in the book Dracula by Bram Stoker. And then the fact that that book, and I believe it wasn't, now if I'm mistaken, somebody please let me know, but wasn't that in Dracula or that in Frankenstein both pretty much thought of in the same evening with the whole...
No. Bram Stoker wasn't around with that.
Wasn't it?
No.
It seems like
it's
Mary
Shelley
and
Bram Stoker's much later than that, actually.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
No, Mary Shelley was there with Percy Bysshe Shelley and Lord Byron. And
yeah.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
right.
And then they all had that.
Who was mad bad? And what was it?
Well, didn't one of them write the vampire poem?
You see,
that
that's
night?
what
that might be what you're confusing.
Yeah, because
I mean, they were trying to do ghost stories.
Yeah,
and
then
Dracula
Shelley
isn't
came
even
up with
close to being the
Frankenstein.
first even novelized version of a vampire story.
No, not by the
Varney
by
the
the long
Vampire,
shot.
maybe.
Dracula reads really strange too if you've ever read the book because it's written in letters. It's
right.
all in letters back and forth. So you have
It's
the
almost
whole
like reading
thing
one of those
with,
like Civil War books where they just
Like
Yeah.
a Ken Burns.
Yeah,
All you need
it's
is
like
a
Ken
slow
Burns
pan
does,
over a photograph.
like in the 1890s. Yeah, because it is. It's like a. No, really, the book is a Victorian ribald sex novel. You know, using it's much in the same way that science fiction touched on, like the in the 50s tried to portray
Fascism
and fascism
Yeah.
and communism and the perils of thinking that everybody's a communist or everybody's a fascist. You know, it was along those same sort of lines, and that horror basically took the place of science fiction in this sense and made it. You know, you had a very structured Victorian lifestyle where everybody was very repressed, and then you have this figure that comes and unleashes their sexual inhibitions by making them into a monster. But it's not, but yet you still have, like, you can do that with a monster, you can do that with science fiction, whereas you can't really do that with just fiction in general. It makes it. You can't just have. You can have like Lady Chatterley's lover that got banned, but yet you have Dracula that made it, into films and everything else, and still managed to be, a hit, essentially for the time period. Never got that kind of.
He wrote that. He was a rock star. I mean,
right.
It's hard to.
Well, I think
it's hard to really like describe it in like modern terms, but that's what he became.
Right.
Well, that's the creative outlet that, now we have stuff like comics and all sorts of sci-fi, like you were saying.
Well, yeah,
and,
we're
that
not
was
as sexually repressed as a society as we used to be, and,
right.
and therefore, like a lot of the tone that Dracula took in that time period has been portrayed in film, especially like with the Frank Langella version of Dracula that was done in the 70s, which was a good film. I mean, I'm not going to decry it as being like a terrible movie. There has been some bad Draculas, but that one's not that bad.
I don't like that. I get tired of that. Just the whole romanticization, once again, going back to like Anne Rice. It's like, you want to write a romance novel, write a damn romance novel. Don't, don't sully something interesting like vampires with a whole bunch of kissing.
Well, I disagree with that.
I mean, okay, there's something to be said. I don't want to go right into her.
What's the thing
we're talking.
You don't
about
have to
Dracula,
read it. I mean, she wrote it for broads. Why
Dracula
do you even know about it
basically
except that they
came
made a
up with
movie?
the idea of the vampire that unleashes like the sexual inhibitions
right.
of the female in the book.
Yeah.
So
you can do that with a Porsche.
Well, yeah.
Well, you couldn't back then.
but that's
back then you could do it with a really nicely made carriage.
Yeah, right. Oh, I got this carriage, baby.
It's gilded, baby.
If you see this carriage rocking,
check out my.
Well, also a lot of the, in my opinion, because I don't like that style of vampire, but I think a lot of the reason that I don't like it is because it's so played out right now. It's not Anne Rice's.
I didn't like it when it wasn't played out.
It's for women.
Yeah.
That's why you don't like it. You're not a woman.
Well, no, it's just everywhere now.
Well, okay. Now I don't mean to like take us away from what we're talking about here.
Yeah, you do.
But we are still like on Dracula, and in being that we're talking about Dracula, I don't have a problem with talking about the Anne Rice novels. But if we move into that, we just basically have to give Dracula his due, and the fact that he's been portrayed as like this, romantic figure, a dark romantic figure that kind of sets the tone for a lot of the vampire.
He was written as a dark romantic figure.
Yeah, but it came out of something completely different.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And that you have like a lot of portrayals of Dracula have been done in a manner that is very like forbidden romance style stuff. It's almost like the dark Romeo and Juliet sort of thing, where Mina Harker is basically like the love of Dracula, and that Jonathan Harker is like keeping her from being with him, more or less. And Jonathan Harker in a lot of the Dracula films has, in recent times, because not so much in the Todd Browning film, because it basically left
Dracula
him out
is
like
physical
altogether.
love,
And
Jonathan
is the more like
stability,
right?
Which has been realized in film as well, that Jonathan Harker is the hero, because you had your morality plays as well. A lot of films, especially during the 40s, were morality plays more than anything else. So a lot of that portrayal of Jonathan Harker being like, the stoic figure, the really the rock solid man.
He was the rich guy. He was the money earner.
Right. And that's the way he was
and
written.
Dracula
So I
is
mean,
the
I don't think
usurper. And they didn't want to give
Dracula
him his
is
due.
like Vic
Dracula's
with
the
big
evil
schlong.
Eastern European.
So a lot
who's
of
coming
like
to
what
steal your woman.
Anne Rice and people have written about is more or less in direct opposition to that take on Dracula, the Jonathan Harker as hero, I believe. It's more so than, because Dracula was like that kind of figure. He was the anti-hero of his own book.
Yeah.
But the films that followed later that had Jonathan Harker as basically being like the lead, the hero, it's
right.
basically in opposition to that, not so much the Dracula myth itself. And I think a lot of it had to do with that. And then those books wouldn't exist at all had it not been for that time period where that,
I could go along with that, yeah.
I just, in my opinion, that's where I think a lot of that came from. And I mean, I know Anne Rice wrote a lot of basically romance novels for the most part. Like
in a lot of ways, the original Dracula was a romance novel. I mean, it was a.
That's what I mean, though.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was. I don't know that it was really. It wasn't like a direct lineage to that. I think it was written more as an opposition to the style of vampire that was made from like Bela Lugosi and things like that. Bela Lugosi was a very seductive figure of his time,
right?
But he's also playing it up like he's the bad guy.
Yeah, but
what a strange
they made
guy
him
for
into
them
the
to-
bad guy. That's what I'm getting at here. Is the Dracula of the 30s, 40s, and 50s is a bad guy.
Yeah.
And then when you move up to like Christopher Lee in the 60s, he's a well-established bad guy. And then Anne Rice takes him from the original like Dracula test of not actually being like so much a bad guy, more or less.
She
as a
doesn't really
force of
touch
nature.
Dracula. She's
Right.
talking about like vampirism, and she over sympathizes and turns the basically turns all the vampires into these emo guys who just can't stand the fact that they have to kill.
Well, I think
okay. There's the type of there's the Dracula that was portrayed in Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula with
that one seemed like he was just kind of going back and forth between I can't believe I got to kill people and I can't wait to kill people.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes.
That was just a poorly
now it has the
directed,
best
poorly acted movie.
I agree.
original.
Looks great.
It looks
Yeah,
awesome.
I agree
Francis
with
Ford
that, too.
Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula
Right.
is great as a silent movie. If you turn off the sound on that movie and you like put on some Bach fugues or some Wagner or Rachmaninoff or something like that,
Plays out.
it plays out. You're not going to miss anything. There's no
Yeah.
subtlety. There's no nuance in the movie. So like the dialogue is actually pointless. The movie looks great.
Yeah.
Put on some great music. Watch the thing.
Well,
It
it's
plays
got
out
Keanu
wonderfully.
Reeves as Jonathan Harker. Which
Well,
is
and
like,
that then again, you don't
like-
have to hear Keanu Reeves say, oh no, it's Dracula.
Yeah. And I like and a lot of the Draculas.
Keanu Reeves often gets outacted by scenery.
Yeah, I mean it happens.
Speed, he was outacted by the bus.
By the bus, the bomb, the road.
Going fast. Yeah, he has all the life of a cigar
this
store
thing
Indian.
But I think
doesn't go fast
I think
enough.
the Anne Rice version of vampires. I mean, it was an inevitable reply to pop vampire culture or whatever.
Well, I agree, and I mean a lot of it had
and
to
the
do
fact
with
that
the
goth
way that
kids
the
love all that
portrayal
whiny shit.
has always
I think-
been
Yeah,
this
but I don't
like
think
that
she was
comes
writing it for
later.
all
18th
kids.
She
century
wasn't.
Gothic
No way.
vampire, where you have like the Romanian count because he's Count Dracula,
Right.
And you see this Count, and he's wearing like basically a suit, he's got the tuxedo on, the grand tuxedo with the big red sash that goes across the front, and he's got the cape on, like you're saying, and he's very, regal and very, stately, right, and that is sort of, it's been so done that it's a caricature of itself. I mean, you really, that was vampirism up into the 70s, when you started seeing more of like, especially in films like that you don't hear a whole lot about, like The Hunger, with David Bowie and things like that, where you had like these sort of vampire that wasn't really a vampire and things. They were like more or less like scientific vampires. Rather than being undead, they were more or less like
infected.
Yeah, infected, and that's come into the modern era more or less.
It's still
the
almost,
modern era.
It's almost
like
beyond
really
the
enjoy these super feral vampires though, to where they lose their, I don't know, intelligence.
Well,
or
again,
whatever.
a reaction.
They're more like just animals.
A direct reaction to the popular, that's going to happen, because for so long, for 20 years or so, vampires have been this really, what we consider weak personality creatures. I mean, these effeminate, things. Yeah, it's going to happen.
Well, everybody wants to put their new stamp on
I
it.
thought the lead Danny Houston plays the lead vampire in 30 Days of Night. I think he's that's one of the vampires I really like. He's matter of fact. He's what he is. He's just he's hungry. He wants to eat something. He doesn't really give a darn about. They kind of play him a little bit too much like a revolutionary, but for the most part, he doesn't care about his food.
Yeah.
He doesn't, more than I care about when I go to Wendy's and get the number 6.
I think that's more in direct response to the Anne Rice style of vampire.
That's what I mean.
And in the Anne Rice style of vampire, you have this person that's turned into a vampire that is reluctant to be a vampire, and then takes and then becomes the vampire.
You're immortal.
And then,
that's
just it though. And a lot of them have come from society.
Well,
she writes about.
She
these
lets
types
them
of
keep
vampires.
parts of their humanity and all this other kind of crap.
Yeah, it's all
I'm going to
about,
throw down the gauntlet right now. Best portrayal of a vampire ever: Fright Night.
See, I still say Christopher Lee and Dracula's Risen.
I love Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
But what's the guy's name in Fright? The guy that plays the main vampire in Fright Night. He's matter of fact. He doesn't care.
Oh, the guy with like the dark kind of longish sort of.
Hey, wears like the coat.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember that guy's name?
I don't know.
I've seen
him
so
it
many times.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Evil Ed went on to do gay porno, though. By the way,
Evil Ed is awesome. But then you have like the best, I think the creepiest vampire, James Mason. Like James Mason played a freaky, creepy. And was he really a vampire? I mean, more or less. I mean, he was a ghoul.
Yeah, he was a ghoul. He wasn't an actual vampire.
But I mean, he was genuinely creepy. And
but he also played a creepy Rommel. I mean, James Mason's just creepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in that you have that type of film with Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
Being that
Salem's Lot's underrated, man.
Yeah, I think so too.
Not only was it a really enjoyable book, but it's one of the, Stephen King is one of those guys who so often you hear like, oh man, the movie's good and everything, but you got to read the book. I swear to God, Stephen King, the movies are so often better than his books.
Yeah, I agree.
Salem's Lot is better. The Shining is better.
Maximum
Dead Zone is better.
Christine's better.
Christine is better.
Read it. Shawshank Redemption is a Stephen King.
Right.
Fucking
much better. Green Mile.
Excuse me.
I'm telling you, Maximum Overdrive
Green Mile.
is so much a better movie than a short story.
That movie actually was one of the first movies to really scare me.
What's the one with River Phoenix that was based on The Body?
Oh,
Stand By Me is better.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like the only thing that Stephen King did better than the movie was probably The Running Man, and I'll give the movie the fact that it had Richard Dawson and it had the guy.
Richard Dawson was great in that movie.
Richard Dawson was awesome.
This is the second time we've referenced
But the actual story, The Running
Man,
Man, is a good story, and it has nothing to do with the movie, though.
But before I forget about The Hunger, it amazes me today that there was a time in my life where I actually was looking forward to seeing Susan Sarandon naked.
You are wrong.
Maybe that's.
I think you were wrong even then.
No. That movie came out in, 80?
Yeah, something like it was an early 80s.
She was busted
movie.
in 1980, dude. What are you talking about?
I was 7 in 1980. It was a naked woman.
Dude.
Well, okay.
That was,
in that case, you'd have loved seeing like I don't know.
Well, I wanted to see like Rosemarie from the Dick Van Dyke Show. I mean, there's still limits.
Seeing Coco on your ass.
There's still limits, but
wow. Oh my God, that's terrible. But yeah, okay. Now, since we've gone
Alex
there, I guess
Ghostley
we got to
just
finish
died.
it out. But like the whole thing with the Anne Rice books, I mean, you have Lestat. I mean, Lestat just
Wait a minute, you
irks
can't
me
say. You got to say it
on
right. It's Lestat.
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 Lestat irked me like from the very beginning,
Well, see,
especially by his portrayal. I mean,
he's
now
supposed to
I hear
irk you.
now I didn't read the book until after I saw the movie, and I did read the book. Like, I didn't
see, I've never read any of the books. All I
read
know is
Interview with
that
the
Tom
Vampire.
Cruise is a queer vampire.
But I just read it because the book was now.
So
Tom
he's
Cruise is
essentially
a
playing
queer
himself.
anything. I mean, come on.
Tom Cruise
He's
is
doing the Jack
portrayal of
Nicholson
that.
playing himself.
I mean, it was. I don't know.
Hello.
I don't even know. I don't even really remember why I read the book.
Why did
I
Paul
think it was
Lynde
just
never
because
play
it was
vampire?
like out and I read it. All right, fine. I read it. But God, what is she writing here? I just don't understand. Like the idea of the guy in what's the guy's name in the book
Louis.
Louis. Right. Okay. Like bitches about being immortal the whole time. It's like, dude, walk out in the daylight, you asshole.
But he's too weak
I
to even
agree,
do it.
man.
He's
It's
too
right.
afraid to
Yeah.
face the darkness.
Yeah.
It's all this fucking bullshit that like
Oh, Broad, take that
you
shit
can't
up.
just you get this like you become immortal. Like nothing hurts you anymore, and all you are is like hungry. People would be food. People would be no different than corn chips.
Well, I mean, you're
You don't
having
care. You don't care about the ear of corn that was sacrificed to make your Dorito.
Yeah, but the ear of corn doesn't have like kids and doesn't like.
You didn't go to school with the ear of corn.
Yeah,
Right, I think that
I get where she's coming from.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just so like.
See, I get where she's coming from in the beginning, but if
Once
you're
you've done it a
immortal,
few times, you'd get over it.
once you're immortal and
Just
you
like
live,
anything
say you
else
live
that we do
200
as people.
years, none of your buddies are going to be around. Your family's not going to be around.
Yeah, you're going to be.
You don't
kind
care
of
about
like,
anybody after that.
It's. I mean,
Once you've done it a
drive
few
you to be in the
times, you
Senate,
get over it.
Hey,
real quick.
maybe.
Hey, look, I've punched people. I don't want to go punch my mom.
I want to punch your mom.
I know.
But he turns a little
Donkey
girl
punch.
into a vampire. Well, he drinks her till the point of death, and
Yeah.
Lestat actually turns her into
Right.
a vampire, and then she ends up like trying to kill Lestat. But I think that
she was changed early enough where she doesn't. I think it was because he was older. Louis was older, and he was.
You know,
That's
the
why
only
he
thing
had
that I
such a
really
problem
like
with it.
about the Anne Rice like portrayals, and it's probably not entirely her idea, but she fleshed it out probably better than most writers do, is that in the subsequent books, like The Queen of the Damned, which isn't a great book, but I love the idea that like she starts talking about the older vampires,
Right.
Origin.
and the fact that they've got like skin like marble.
right. That is
And
a
the fact
cool,
that like just like whenever I guess it, like the Queen of the whoever the Queen of the Damned was, like the oldest of them, whenever they come into contact with any of the other vampires, they can just basically like make them burst into flames and.
Well, in
Yeah,
a lot of
that's-
ways, I
that's
think
pretty
that's a commentary on the whole changing of the image of a vampire.
Well, you know,
Well,
I
it
didn't have
went to
such
the
a
Egyptian
problem with
and-
those.
Right.
With those
Are we going to go into
films.
Dungeons and Dragons at this point?
Non-hit dice.
Not yet.
until it actually went to like Lestat the rock star, you know, and he's wearing like leather
Only
pants.
nine.
That was-
Freaking
12
time.
Yeah,
that was
that's
awful.
At that point, I was like,
That
I'm
was
done
awful.
with this.
I'm
This
sure
is
this is
bad.
Me too.
You know,
Maybe it's
and
just
I don't want to
Dracula.
watch this anymore. I don't want to see any films
Dracula. They
made
Count
from
Strahd.
it. It's bad.
No, they have Dracula.
Dracula.
And Anne Rice wasn't even like pulling any punches about it too. She
'Cause
was like,
he's-
"Yeah, I want to
he's
write
public
sexy
domain.
vampire books."
Yeah.
You know, and,
but I don't think
and
they really
and
use
that's
it.
all
I
she wanted.
encountered
She
Dracula
wanted
at
guys
some
in
point.
leather pants and dudes touching each other and stuff like that, and the whole like
I killed
weird
him.
thing. And I was
And then I
like, man,
killed
this
Zeus.
is tired. I'm sorry. It's tired.
I have a bag of holding.
I'm not trying to like be homophobic about it or anything like that, but it was just going like really into it was just not interesting anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't
Well, I mean,
wanna
like I
read
said
about
before, at this point, the whole thing's just kind of tired. It's been overplayed.
it. Right.
I'm sure back when Anne Rice first wrote her books that it was a neat idea, and it was.
But man, did she!
We
have
also
a
had
following,
men jumping around with long, hair and leather pants on stage, and we loved them for it at the time.
Hey, we did. But I think it was at a time when the vampires had exited the films. There weren't, because of like the Dracula, because of like that sort of idea of Dracula being like this guy and the tuxedo and the cape and the whole deal. She brought him back, and then it went from there to like the type of vampire, the regular guy vampire, the violent, like
the near dark vampire.
Yeah, the near dark vampire.
I wanted to talk about that so bad because that's probably my favorite vampire movie.
The word vampire is never spoken in the movie Near Dark.
I know.
It isn't.
It's still a vampire movie.
Well, I mean that says something about it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, go from there though. What do you like about it?
Just the mentality behind all the vampires. I mean, they're just animals, and they realize it.
Right.
And
they're like gang.
And that comes in a time where the whole popular idea of a vampire is these female men that suck on each other's necks like they're dicks.
Yeah, you get this type of like gothic vampire that's seriously like wearing French cut shirts.
Yeah.
All like open, got the heavily coiffed hair, and like just looking all like, walking around, leather pants and stuff.
Right.
I think they set themselves up sort of as an aristocracy over, humans. I mean, that's very similar to Dracula.
A lot of like it had to do with like their lineage. Like I've been around for 400 years, and I turned you into a vampire and stuff like that. So there's that whole thing going on with vampires too, is that they have a hierarchy among themselves. So,
right.
If you're the progeny of a vampire, you're basically subservient to that vampire until they die.
Yeah.
So you have a vested interest in seeing them.
Well, now you're getting the whole white wolf thing.
Yeah, the white wolf thing, I mean, for all of its, because, man, it attracted some crazy people.
Yeah,
the core rule book was great.
Yeah.
And then after that, it went just straight to, Homo Town.
Oh, wow. Yeah, but, I mean, you're right.
And I don't mean gay. I mean, middle school gay.
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean,
lame.
Too. Yeah, right.
It just got really lame.
But, they did manage to come up with a decent set of rules for live action play. And man, to out myself as a role player,
I've been
LARP. But LARPing, man, not doing it. It's just
they didn't really come up with a lot of the rules for LARP, especially back when you're talking about.
You could hear the people clicking back as soon as he said live action role play.
Yep, I've been there. Mike and I actually have had our day in the dark, so to speak, with live action role playing. And
it's fun.
It is
really
a hell of a lot of fun.
And
man.
honestly,
you get to run around a hotel.
Oh yeah, when you were a kid, running around Cowboys and Indians
dressed up
was fun.
as sluts because hey, it's vampires, right? I mean, what else are you gonna put on a lot of clothes to play a vampire? No.
Right.
So that's the way it was.
Well,
it was
honestly,
cool.
in that White Wolf universe, they did such a good job at fleshing out all the little intricacies, like history and.
Not just that, but they found every type of vampire and stuck it in there.
Right.
The animalistic vampire, the fancy pants vampire, the regular guy vampire.
Yeah, they actually call them fancy pants.
Yeah,
hold on.
You'd be surprised the type of people who actually would choose the different types of vampires. You had the long-haired style.
Man, I know it started with a V, but I can't remember what it
sort
was.
Of
Ventru.
A feet type vampire.
Yes.
And they were so fun to mess with. That was the best part about it, is you got to mess with people that took this stuff seriously 24/7. And there are still guys that I see every once in a while, and they wear top hats and everything.
Yeah.
Me and my job,
capes.
dude, you will see them all day long,
and
twice on Sundays.
It is the best ever. Derek says it best.
When the goths come out.
If you ever want to feel good about yourself, go to a sci-fi role-playing convention. You have less problems than 90% of these people.
The way I describe the way I describe Dragon Con is it's pretty hard for me to do, but when I can walk into a building with 30,000 people and kick everybody's ass, man, you feel
God
good.
knows that's true.
Yeah. I always considered myself a nerd, and then like the first guy you see that's wearing like the Doctor Who scarf,
yeah.
And
then
you're like,
the next guy that you
and
see
you're
that's
asking,
wearing the
"Oh,
Dr.
are you
Who's
going to
telephone
like the
booth.
convention or something?" He's like, "No, I'm going to work."
Yeah.
That's when you know you're not anywhere. It's
Yeah.
Why did you quit the comic book shop?
Because it closed. I didn't quit.
Oh, I
It
thought
went
you,
out of business.
I thought you quit when you heard some dude like arguing whether the Hulk could destroy a Star Destroyer.
No. It was could the Hulk penetrate
that's
the whole
right.
the SS Enterprise? No, I just told him to shut up and get out.
Oh my God!
I could,
Wow.
and I let him argue for a good half hour before I couldn't take it anymore.
But really, I mean, getting back to this whole idea, the Anne Rice style blended itself with the more militant style for that whole like game.
Sure.
And it allowed for that sort of thing to take place, which was really a 90s phenomenon.
Well, I think one of the main appeals of Vampire the Masquerade was that, like you said, it really did hit every type of vampire. So you weren't stuck with the like.
It wasn't a game for a bunch of people who wanted to play fancy pants vampires.
Right. Like,
but there were a bunch of people
If
who
one
wanted
of
to
your
play
buddies wanted to be fancy pants
sure.
vampire, but your other buddy wanted to be like the tough guy vampire, and your other
Yep.
buddy wanted to be the ugly vampire, you could all play the same game.
Right. And then there were the crazy vampires too. So you got the
the
Looney
Cuckoo for
Tunes
Cocoa
ones.
Puffs.
Yeah, like the dressed like a
Malkavians.
clown.
We haven't even touched on Count Chocula yet.
Count Chocula.
Count Chocula.
What does he live
There's
on?
like a spirit of silence after the mention of Count
It was
Chocula.
It
It's like
Where
he's
do you go
he's
with
Nosferatu.
that?
It was respectful
He's
silence.
Nosferatu in form. He's Lugosi in dress.
I
He's
think
got kind of a cheesy
and then-
Lugosi accent too.
Yeah.
And then there's the quite possibly
Stays
OCD
crispy and
Count
new.
Von Count.
Blah.
Count Von Count.
Count Von Count, who can't like
1, 2,
stop
3, 4.
counting
1,
things.
2, 3, 4.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. The
One,
Count.
Sesame Street.
Count
Count.
Von Count.
He's
One
amazing.
peanut butter sandwich.
Have you
I
ever
love
noticed,
these
like in
games.
subsequent years, they removed his fangs?
Yep.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Like early on, he had the two
Yeah.
white triangles in his
Yeah.
mouth that are fangs, and I know
They took 'em
I
off
know
at
that I've
some
seen
point.
them like recently, and then he just doesn't have them at all.
Boo.
I just don't see
I
how
know.
you can make.
How you
gonna
bite into some numbers?
Yeah.
there?
I mean,
Well, it's a puppet.
It's a prime number.
yeah,
It's
but
a-
there was like
a Muppet.
Greg the Bunny. You had like
Yeah, the Count on Greg the Bunny was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Ah,
Or the fact that Sugar Bear became Golden Bear. I'm so mad about that.
Sugar Bear.
I'm still mad that they had Greedo shoot
That's
first.
not fair. Get ready for Sugar
Yeah.
Bear.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so
Nothing's
mad
worse
about
than
Can't
Gre-
get enough of them.
Nothing's worse than Greedo shooting first.
Oh, that.
There's very
Yeah.
little worse than that. I'll
Yeah,
admit that.
that's-
There may be
That's-
worse.
If you're
but I
a
haven't
nerd,
found
you're
it.
sitting.
It was
at
one
your
collective
computer
hitting the balls with a
going,
wiffle ball
that's
bat.
true.
Wow, we have full nerdity
Yep.
right now. We have gone from video
shop
games.
first. We've
See,
gone
I still
critical.
say wearing Doctor Who scarves is like 10 times worse than anything we've done here.
Oh,
Seamus,
sure.
Seamus was a woman.
Yeah, but not the people listening to this.
Oh, the best was
Metroid.
like Derek actually went with me one time
Samus
when
is a
I was
woman.
I was involved in a game, and Derek come and hung out. Derek didn't play. He'll make me tell everybody. Derek did not play a role playing game in public.
Dude, Derek
Okay.
is a bad motherfucker, man.
Yes, he is.
He does nothing but crack skulls and lay pipe
That's right.
all day long.
But we were playing,
When he's not
and
knifing
they
Jews.
they set us up. Wow, where do you go with that? Okay, so we're in a hallway. Just after like a big meeting among like the group that we were in, and like okay, we're walking towards the exit of this hallway, and it led out into the main hallway of the hotel, and we were getting ready to walk towards the exit here, and then into the hallway comes this like thing and her two friends, and like this girl, man,
She was heading for the bar to order a
it
ham
was
and
like
tonic.
4 full feet of cottage cheese. It was the scariest thing you've ever
She
seen.
was like a
in your
ham
life.
elemental.
Oh, yeah. It was scary. Okay, like she was dressed as a belly dancer. It was this hideous girl. Like
Density
she
style.
had like a halter top, like a black halter top sort of deal going on. It was black and like this like I don't know thing draped around her shoulders, but it and she had like this
Patrick Swayze.
incredible like belly
idol
went down. It went down and it like it Dunlapped, Dunlapped over, and it was
Count that
it
killer.
was so white it was clear, like it was almost translucent, like it was developing
Like a
its
giant
own
piece
light.
of gristle.
Oh, and it was all kinds of cottage cheese and
me a
stretch
slap on the
marks.
rocks.
And she comes walking down this narrow hallway with her two friends, and Derek and I didn't say a word, but like we just backed up against the wall and kind of let it go by, and like it went by, and then we were like, oh my God, and we just walk out into the hallway, and Derek goes, man, she'd look pretty good if she were an orc. And I died laughing, dude. And I'm laughing so hard I fart. And I go, dude, I laughed so hard I farted. And like at that point, Derek's on the ground laughing, and that's not even the end of that. Like we're like,
we haven't even told the Space Princess story.
Oh yeah. So
hey,
so
you
like
look like a space princess. Take up a lot of space, princess.
Oh, that was the girl in the silver lame,
was at Nikki's party,
like
yeah.
at Nikki's. Oh God, that was bad. But yeah,
she was large.
That was just freaking hilarious. And then like very shortly thereafter, I don't know if it was a few minutes or maybe it was in the same spot, but in that little narrow hallway, like this guy in a Star Trek uniform was standing around, and he's like wearing one of the Next Generation Star Trek uniforms, and then this guy comes up and he's wearing like a little like powder blue like spaceman like outfit, with a cape, and he walks up to the guy in the Star Trek uniform and he goes, "Oh, I see you're a commander in the what is it called? The
Starfleet,
Federation. The Federation of." He goes, "I am also a commander in the Cosmic Alliance," awesome. And he was making the other guy back up, like he was like out nerding the Star Trek.
He was punking him out.
Still, there's nothing better than going to those conventions and counting the Boba Fett. It's like every fat guy in the world wants to wear a Boba Fett costume.
Oh yeah,
fat.
Yeah. Me and Stuart saw like 3 of them once.
That's
awesome.
Our nerdy vampire story right there. So,
wow.
Yeah, okay. We're going to take this opportunity right now to take a break for some messages. Right.
Poontang.
For a poontang break.
Crosses and garlic on.
Yeah, we're going to have to go back and talk about that. How to stop a vampire next after these messages.
Need to smoke cigarettes.